I was going to start reading the cards for my patrons over on Patreon. I think had a request to start with Gemini, so start with Gemini. That's okay. However, as you guys know, my little code breaker ways, always looking for the code breaker. Where's the code? I wanted to talk with you guys about the chart. I've had a few of you kind of reach out and try to talk with me about the chart, but I've had a brand new little puppy that he's big enough now that he's dragging me. I have like sore arms, bruises on my legs. He's having a good time, so more power to him. Here is the chart that we're looking at today. And my first response to this chart is sort of like, if someone gave you, if someone left you with like $1 million, right? And all of this money is in the room and they look at you and they say, hey, I'm going to leave you here with my money. So can you watch it for me? And then they walk off. That's sort of the feeling that this chart is kind of giving me. However, because Saturn is involved, which is right up here, and if you can see, if I kind of go in, Saturn, this guy is at 29 degrees, 57 seconds in Pisces. That's an anaretic degree right there, you guys. It's really important. Here's the other stinker, the part of this that's also the stinker, okay, is that you have Saturn right there, and then you have Pallas at 24, right? And then you have Juno at 23. I'm pointing out all the ones that are in range. They're way too close. Look at the moon is right here in Aries at 27. Uranus, the sun, and Mercury here. They're all within range. Jupiter within range right there, 26 degrees. Now, you may ask a really good question like, what is the range? Well, let me show it to you real quick so that you know for next time. We're looking at 10 plus or minus, right? And if it's a large generational planet like Pluto, then it's 15 like this, plus or minus. And if it is like Pallas or Ceres right there, or Juno, the asteroids, any of the asteroids you want 2 plus or minus. I hope that's not too challenging. But that's kind of the ranges of how we measure. We kind of stay within the range, 10 plus, 10 minus. And the ones that I've pointed out with the arrows here, they're within range of all of the other arrows. That's a lot of arrows. These are the zodiac signs, and this is a chart with it kind of has the Aries rising, right? So the first house would come across like that, and then the descendant line would start like that. And if you and I were standing right here at the center where this little X is, you and I would be in the right spot. Yes. So that's where I'm going to put us. We're going to be right here in the middle. Yay. Right? Standing on the earth right there in the middle. So when we look up into the heavens, what we really see are these constellations above and around our heads, right? So I'm going to draw the line here because that's the 10th house line and then the 4th house line. There's the major angles. Let me go ahead and show you the first house right there, the second house right there. The third house is an angle at the end. You see the 4th house, the 5th house, on and on. Well, here's the thing. If we only look at the red lines, and that's all that we're looking at, and yes, I'm kind of taking the long way around teaching you why this is sort of important. Look at the circle. See where we're standing, right in the middle, right there, right? Now that I've shown you what the circle looks like, again, we're kind of standing here in the middle where the smiley face is at. This is where a human would be. Each one of these, though, if I show it to you, this is a quadrant. And so in astrology, we call this quadrant number 1. This over here is quadrant 2, this quadrant is 3, and this quadrant is 4, like that. There are signs that are above the horizon, and this is what is shown, okay? This is what is shown. We also have planets that are below the horizon line, like that, okay? All of that that's below is yin. All of this that's above is yang. So, what does that mean? It means that the yin portion is internal. Nobody's going to see how that kind of goes on. It's an internal process. So, if you see people who are grieving something, or they're hurting, or they have they're working with attachment issues that they're trying to release, this may also be the perspective of the self. If there's feelings of rejection, and there's feelings of acceptance, or there's feelings of exclusion, or there's feelings of inclusion. When we talk with other light workers and our spiritually awakened community, all somebody has to do is say, raise your vibrancy, right? That raising is all being done in the lower portion of the chart. It's internal. Raising the vibration has to do with an internal thing, and it would be internal. Now, why would this be a big deal? Is because Neptune and Saturn are right there on that first line that splits the chart naturally into the above and the below, like this. So we are definitely in a new kind of era right there, because internally folks are feeling this way. But what are we seeing on the other side? Question mark. We're seeing Pluto outwardly. We're seeing Saturn in the North Node outwardly. We are seeing Juno and Vesta outwardly. That's not a whole lot. Count the rest of the planets over here on that side. It carries with it Aries energy, so it's spontaneous. It carries with it that whole, oh, I'm having a feeling, but I don't have a name for the feeling. You know what I mean? Anything Aries in this first quadrant, you guys, anything that's attached to Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Aries, Taurus, or Gemini, it's going to have this internal combustion thing that kind of comes out like that. Like, oh my God, I gotta get a rubber band. Where's the rubber band? Right? A really good way that I've been working with this energy, I'm so proud of myself. You know the buttons where the pets hit the button and they learn the language, right? And you watch those videos on TikTok or on YouTube where the dog is over there pushing the buttons. I think there's a husky. You guys see that white husky where it's calling its owners the B word. Hey, B word, B word. It can be kind of cute, but I have two really intelligent animals here. So I took out the buttons and I was like, you know what? This is brilliant. It's a moment, right? I had a moment where it's like a teaching moment. I broke out the buttons. I said, mommy is one button. I want them to learn how to call for mommy, because mommy, right? So I said, mama, work. And then I took a tennis ball, which is their favorite, and I created one of the buttons that said mama, play, because I'm trying to teach them. So that's Gemini information. Those are details. And you should see how quickly both dogs picked up on that, because internally they were like, Oh, right? If the folks around you that you work with, that you go to church with, that you live with, that your animals, your children, it really doesn't matter. If they don't like, if they don't like what kind of urge just came out like that, then they're going to let you know this side can be pretty cruel. They can be pretty sharp. And if you haven't noticed in the tarot card readings, you guys, the Queen of Swords has been showing up a lot, and the Ace of Swords and the Ace of Wands and the Queen of Swords and the King of Swords has been in either the up or the down. There's been a few of them where I've seen the Ace of Cups, so somebody's trying to say it nicely with the Venus and Aries. Some of us are trying to say things nicely, but it's going out into the world, okay? And all that the world is seeing from us, the responses that we're catching. On this side would be the South Node, right? Venus, Lilith, Juno. Not looking at that one. And Pluto, Pallas, Saturn, and the North Node. That's it. That's what everybody is responding with. What does that look like? It can look like you're a B or an a-hole, man. And Aries Venus. If you guys have an Aries Venus, if you ever have seen an Aries Venus, the square point from Aries over here to Cancer, it can make it very sensitive. Why? Because the Aries Venus is one of the sweetest, most kind, delightful for me, if you have like Saturn or something in Aries and some challenging things, we're fixing to have a whole generation of kids being born with Saturn in Aries, like a whole generation that has karma in Aries, karma with Mars. I don't even know what, seriously, I'm just gonna stop myself right there. I could create like a whole series on that and be like, beware, beware, beware people who have karma with that sudden urge. Or there might be a lot of car accidents, so. Oh my God. But the Venus Aries point, these folks are the sweetest. Now, are they gentle all the time? No. But what if you have an adorable, cute, little open-hearted person who is sweetly coming in with a kitten that they're dragging across the floor, and they plop the kitten in your lap and they go, "Here, mommy, I brought you a cat." In fact, that's even better, a cat that goes out and grabs a bird and brings it to you and lays it on the floor. That would be a Venus and Aries. "Mommy, look what I hunted down for you. Mommy, see what I got for you?" That's a Venus and Aries. You can't look at that and say, it's not innocently done. You know what I mean? The intention is innocently done. Here's my concern with this chart, is that the moon and Chiron right here, Chiron is definitely close enough to that Venus, is squaring, of all things, Pluto in Aquarius right there. That can be a mighty ouch. The Chiron squaring the Pluto. This is someone who is coming in with very sweet intention, and they're presenting a solution or something that needs to happen, right? With the Chiron in Aries. It's kind of saying, I'm an individual, right? I am, I exist, I am, right? I am. And we all know that's true because I really am. I just happen to be animated because of the DNA that I carry, but I do exist. I do exist, right? There's a lot of hang-ups that folks have individually. Their individual nuances, the idiosyncrasies that they have, their personal biased, yeah, but they're also, what would you call, their willingness to be vulnerable. Sometimes it has to do with Taurus things, like this is my money or these are my resources I have earned and I've worked for. I do it this way, but the Venus thing kind of shoots out. The Chiron squaring the Pluto is sort of saying transformation around the thing, the wound that could hurt us the most is not moving. Or there's a rejection factor to it because the ruler of Aries, Mars, is currently in Leo. And the Leo aspect to Aquarius is always about rejection. Always about rejection. You can't run away from that. Mars sitting in Leo, which is a house of rejection, right? This says that someone is presenting something about Leo. It would have to be a Leo thing. So my romantic life, my sex life, my individual ability to do something. Either you've done the discipline, right? And you have the discipline thing down, you have the commitment thing down, but it's something that you're presenting in a certain way that has to do with an ability. You're shooting it over to Aquarius where Pluto is and beautiful Athena. So if you've ever hung out with an Aquarius, they can be pretty cold, logical, yes, deductive is a good word for Aquariuses. They've thought things through, or they naturally have this gift and they couldn't tell you why. They were just born with it. They earned it in previous lifetimes. They've used that intelligence, that deduction skill, other places. Because here, Aquarius is attached in a good position to Sagittarius, you could also be talking about culture or lifestyle, the way that people live, the God they choose to believe in. This could also be your education against someone else's education. It's in a good aspect, okay? The thing is, if you're aware of yourself, and if you're aware of yourself, versus you're not aware of yourself, right? Because depending on your Sagittarius, we don't know if you're polite or if you're rude or if you're innocent, or if there's something there. And we're seeing that across the board I'm seeing that with all the geography stuff that I follow. You guys know. I look at earthquakes, I look at rocks. Oh my God, do you know what was happening this week? You know why I watch this stuff, y'all? It's because I am fascinated and in awe. I'm always looking for things to be fascinated with and to be in awe with at a very large level. The mountain range in Switzerland, I think the valley and the city in the valley is called Botten, Botten, in Switzerland. They're having huge rock, just the faces of these tremendous mountains that people go skiing on are cracking off in huge avalanches that are just, they had to evacuate the whole valley in Switzerland. They're just kind of standing there like. And then we have other movements of the earth that are happening in the United States, like Idaho, strange ones, but I mean, if you've been following me long enough, you know what you know where we're going with all of this. But these tremendous, intense things that are happening to the earth are also being mimicked with its people and also being mimicked with the economy and with the politics and all that other stuff. This situation that I'm talking about here is just happening across the board, and it's always happening like that. We're all being struck with the same electromagnetic field. So sue me. There's going to be a modicum of rejection with this chart. We're also going to see someone present their Chiron wound, right? This could also be something that you might, and it's just coming to me that I need to bring this up. This may be something with the trines, the trine position here between Mars and Venus, right? And we may have been afraid in some sense in the past to present something that we already have inside of us that's childlike, because Leo rules childlike, playful behavior. Like if you and I were going to go out dancing, that's a Leo function. If you and I were going to go to a birthday party and like, woo woo, that's a Leo function. Anything that's kind of playful. So like this morning, me and John were getting Kai riled up because he's a Belgian Malinois. And if we can get him riled up really good and play with him hard for like 30 minutes or 45 minutes, he'll pass out. Like right now, he's out. So like John and I were riling him up. We were getting his Leo energy going this morning, right? And we're dancing to a song out in the living room. And, you know, John's twirling me and we're dancing in the living room and the dog is barking and Iris is wagging her tail. It's loud, it's proud. I think we were listening to Freddie Mercury and dancing to Queen. And I'll be honest with you, John has he's seen me in a playful dance mode before, but usually he's watching and just smiling. This morning he got up off the couch. Here's the Mars, right? He, as an individual, got up off the couch, and he's the one, we grabbed each other and we started dancing. It was very sweet. It was a cool moment. John and I have also been playing, right? Being vulnerable with our Chiron. He is watching me do some of the playful stuff I used to do when I was 5 or 6. And I did it when I was 5 or 6, so I'm doing it now. Some of it is play acting, where I'm looking at the dog and I'm like, give me the ball, you know. And he's done some of that playfulness as well. Stuff that, you know, we've been married like 10 years now, and there's still things that we hide from one another. Because when we were young, you know, the embarrassment factor and the back and forth and the back and forth. You see what I'm doing, what I'm showing you in the chart. There's a bouncing thing that's going like back and forth and back and forth. And this is what I noticed. I'm saying like all of this to get to this point. See the sun to Pluto at 3 degrees in Gemini. And the midpoint is this hot mess right here. That's the midpoint. Saturn crossing out of Pisces, heading into Aries. Oh my God, Saturn at 1st degree of Aries. Saturn at 1st degree of Aries. I just don't. I'm always anticipating the worst, and then I'm dancing in the living room with John, you know. It's just crazy, the midpoint placement of this. And when I saw that, and you see all the 1s and the 3s and the 29s and the 27s and the attachments that they all have, because I've been paying attention. I'm always paying attention, close attention. There is something in this back and forth energy, back and forth, back and forth. And if you start with the horizon line that is naturally there, the ups and the downs, this is what I've seen. This whole side, so if you're a Libra, if you're a Scorpio, if you're a Sagittarius, a Capricorn, Aquarius, or Pisces, this is what I think Saturn is doing right there. There's some sort of chunk that's being ripped away and thrown to the other side. I think this side is happy. There's my happy face. And I think this side has some sort of sadness right now. Because of the setup. Because of the setup. Like Capricorn is losing the way that maybe they imagined something. There's the sextile, right? Scorpio coming in hot, having to do something or deal with something tragic, tragedy hitting Scorpio, but it also releases that person's Taurus, which says, oh, okay, well, if I'm going to lose on this side over here and go through something tragic, I'm going to gain the plus side over here on Taurus. I've seen it. Libra here has had a tough go, and they're losing something, and Aries is gaining it. Freedom to just be yourself, with no holds barred. Sagittarius losing something with the higher knowledge thing, gaining something over here on Gemini. I find it unique that Saturn is at play doing this, because the way that Pluto is set up, the way that these planets, it's asking for a change, right? This is asking for a transformation, and it looks like a positive transformation. You have this cry of help, or there's a cry of personal identity or choice or freedom or something like that. So you hear the innocence of this Aries function kind of come out, and you're catching the bite from the third, like it's a big bite. I don't like it. Seriously. Some people can be very cruel and lack empathy. They show apathy, and you're kind of like, really? I didn't know you felt that way, and that's weird. That's weird, but you let go and let God, that sort of thing. The big bite. These guys are coming out of the gate just really chunking it. Just like, rah. But it is this back and forth. That's my point with the oppositions, that Saturn is pushing the limit of the oppositions that kind of go back and forth and back and forth. So when you look at your own chart, and I know some of this stuff may not make sense to you, however, when you triple, double check my work, which I hope that you're doing, I hope that you take whatever I'm telling you right now and use it like a transparency. Take your own chart, lay it over, and see that halfway line, from the beginning of Aries. So sorry about that. From the beginning of Aries all the way to Pisces, right? And you want to look at your own chart, and you want to see where the innocence is right now, this stuff. The Venus trining Mars. This is an innocent sort of choice, but one between one and one between another. But the removal from that third quadrant, and check that. One of the reasons I'm saying that is because Saturn, the Lord of Karma, is in its last anaretic degree right there. So you have an era of about, I don't know. I had to double check that, and it was so dumb that I did. Because we all know the time frame of like your first Saturn return. Oh, what's my name? I don't even know where I'm at. Okay, so Saturn takes 29 and a half years. I'm so ridiculous that I had to stop and look that up. Because we all know this is the time frame of like a Saturn return. But 29 and a half degrees to a human is not a small chunk of your life. We're talking about an era. In fact, some of you may have had to deal, like if you have had your first Saturn return, you have probably dealt with a subject matter that triggered your first Saturn return, For me, it was horrible. I had to, in my chart, I have to have freedom with all things Sagittarius. If I don't, it'll start compressing, and that Capricorn energy, the compression, that also carries with it, depression and all the places that depression can take you. That was my first Saturn return. And literally, Pisces at the 29th degree that we're having right now, I literally had to deal with something that had triggered my first Saturn return. And I wonder if Saturn was presenting another test. Was this another test? to see what we were going to do? These are the questions I ask myself. Because when Saturn moves into Aries, I am fully anticipating like a whole new set of something. And in the next 30 years, when Saturn returns to this point again, I mean, write it down, because you may have to deal with it one more time. Dear Lord, one more time, you know? Bouncing us back and forth in the energy. So if we rip away one side using a Saturn return, which is so intense, like if you are in your early 20s or your teens or something like that, when you hit 27, you're going to start doing it. Everybody does. You go through it. It takes 3 or 4 years to get through that first Saturn return, and it's rough. It's rough. It's you know, either really internal or it's really external, but it'll change the course and the direction of your life, and it's supposed to. It's supposed to. Don't fight it. It's terrible though. It's like really, it's hard. It's hard to get through if you don't have support. It's really hard. Anyhow, moving into the next section of our journey here, and then having Ceres. I read a little bit this morning about this one. Ceres conjunct Neptune in Aries, making a tremendous square to Jupiter, and it's, you know, it's still not done. It's not done. In fact, it's going to amp up this issue here with Ceres conjunct Neptune, squaring Jupiter over here, right? The advancement forward that has to do with Ceres does, it does have that parental parents and your children, right? Ceres also has the abundance factor, whether you are feeling abundant inside or you are dealing with abundance on the outside. Ceres, it sits out there in the Kuiper belt with Pluto, okay? Ceres is actually larger than Pluto. It could be a planet if they would just say it's a planet, but they don't. Okay, so I'm going to break out the book that I have. This is Asteroid Goddesses by Demetra George and Douglas Block. If you don't have this book, you might want to get it. It's really good. So Ceres and Neptune aspects. And before I read this, just understand that Neptune is a deceiver most of the time. The square to Jupiter may have some reality attached to it, yes, but notice that Mercury is trine Neptune, which lends towards your imagination, yes, but not everything in your imagination is 3D, and that's part of the issue. So when I read this, just know it's a slippery, imagine being on ice, okay? You're on ice, and if you're walking without skates, you might do okay. If you're on skates, your ankles aren't strong. If you've ever been on ice with ice skates, yeah. Just know it's a lot like that. So we're looking at the nurturing principle, the feeling of a transcendent urge, right? The question is, are you able to give yourself the nurturance that you need? If I poke you with a hot poker, right, that's burning hot, do you know how to nurture yourself, calm yourself down, self-soothe in a lot of ways? Or are you going to turn Neptune to something that's going to Venus lead towards an indulgence of some kind, right? To pacify yourself? Or do you know how to nurture? Like right now we're nurturing a puppy. And yeah, I'm paying close attention to his personality, the characteristics of who he is. And I'm figuring out how to work better with him by paying attention to him. And John and I, every single day, like 2 or 3 times a day, we share the information of nurturance about the puppy, right? Heather and I talk like almost every day. And we share the nurturance function back and forth. If she's having a bad day or a hard time, I know that her Venus is in Cancer, right? I'm not going to take the hot poker to someone with Venus in Cancer. That's just bad juju. They will go away from you and they will not come back for 30 years. They just won't. They're very sensitive. So words matter in a time of crises. Am I able to serve and nurture others with this transcendent urge? Have I learned enough about love, like real love, not fake love, the real stuff? And I didn't start learning that my love was poisonous until I was about 34. Not gonna lie. Takes a long time, right? Took me 32 years to get into it. It's going to take some time to get out of it. And the real love that comes along, not the quick love. The quick love has like lust, attached to it. And I can lust after a candy bar. I can eat the candy bar. But once I eat the candy bar, it's gone. And it's that fast. It's not like a long burn. Loving someone is sometimes painful, yes, but there are good sides to love as well. And a lot of it has to do with sharing. I want to share something with another person. I want them to share with me. And the love bond. Do you know how to bond with others? Do you know the bonding techniques? Because that took me like 35 years to learn. I didn't know. I grew up in an abusive childhood, you know what I mean, with a lot of violence. So that kind of love is not real. I had to learn. It was weird. I had to sit on the outside of things and observe. I had to learn that traditions cause bonding. Languages, yes, can cause bonding. You ever see those people who they come together as friends and they learn Pig Latin? Remember that when we were kids, the Pig Latin? Yeah. And they like talk to each other in this language that only those two people share. It's a bond. That kind of love that creates memories, And right now there could be a square going on right here that's challenging that in some sort of way with the details that are presented. Right? Innocently kind of showing ourselves, here's my underbelly, here's the info on that underbelly, right? And it's challenging the trine, which is, are we fooling ourselves about being able to serve others? Because Neptune's going to trigger that. Oh, let me help you out. So harmonious aspects can signify the desire to selflessly give, based upon the experience of unconditional and absolute love obtained through spiritual devotions. I love how they said that, because I had that question in my mind. Let's say that you have spiritually been working things out, letting go of your attachments, learning unconditional love. Unconditional love is the kind of love that you would give a ladybug, right? Unconditional love is sort of like the love of shorelines, the oceans, rivers, waters, lakes. Are you going to go out there and let your kids just trash everything? Or are you going to pick up your trash? The picking up of trash is the unconditional love that nature teaches us, right? Nature teaches us love. Water teaches us love unconditionally. That's sort of unconditional love. Where you see a rabbit, right, in the desert, the jackrabbits, right, and they're running across. Oh, I gave unconditional love a couple of weeks ago. John and I took the puppy to the beach, and we're in the truck. We all have kind of sand somewhere. The dog is hyper and doesn't know what's going on. John and I are hungry and we're thirsty, and but as we're leaving and I'm driving down the road, I hit the brakes and I jump out of the truck because there's a turtle. There's a turtle in the road. It's a beach day. John was like, where the heck are you going? And I was like, I'll do whatever I want. You don't get to tell me. And I run out of the truck and I pick up that turtle and I run it over to the, and I put it in the salt grass. And John is like, oh, okay, she's doing nice things again. I jump back in the truck and I'm like, dude, I'm not going to let somebody run over that turtle. That's insane. That's an unconditional love sort of response, right? But with the trine presence there, and that was my thought the other day. Let's say that you have been learning love with this third quarter, your whole existence, right there. And whatever was being taught to you on this side, and I think that's what Juno in Scorpio is trying to draw up. What is down deep in the unconditional side of love for you? Are you shallow? Are you still in the shallows? Like John. Are you still in the shallows, or do you know how to go deep into those places that would trigger the unconditional love that you have learned, right? And are you able to nurture and give that compassion and that empathy to others? Because the Neptune thing kind of sitting there, y'all, it's going to make you question the love. This square on the details is going to push you to look at challenges at the level of your Saturn return, whatever, because that's probably the most painful. Saturn returns are no joke. No joke. The love that you've learned over here, Mercury. Mercury in Taurus, the seeds that were planted. What's the fruit? What's the fruit? Is it good fruit that you're handing to others? Or is it nasty and ugly and cruel? Like, haven't you had enough time? Saturn in Pisces? Have you had enough time to express the love that you have learned? Are you doing that? Are you able to do that? You know what I mean? My life has completely changed dealing with unconditional love. I want you to raise your hand right now, wherever you are, if you have ever sat in a reading with me. I think there's only one girl that I remember that is still with us, like in our group. What is her name? Shannon? She's the only one I sat with and did a reading for that went haywire. She knows it, I know it, but she still bravely stood with us, and I love her for that. It's like Michelle or Shannon or something. I love her for that. I also love Jamie Fry. I love her. I've never sat with her, but I love her dearly, wherever you're at, Jamie. But if you've sat in a reading with me, raise your hand, because y'all know that once I get into it with you guys, I always go over time, because my unconditional love response, it may look codependent, yes. But to me, I translate that into my 12th step work with my 12 steps from Al-Anon, okay? To share with others, to share my time. That's what I can give, right? To share my knowledge with you guys, because that's what I can give. I don't like leaving you guys in a crisis. I love to be able to hand you an answer, to give you a bullet point plan before you walk away from me. You come in with tension, upset. My unconditional love response with my Pisces over the 6th house is to kind of sit down and say, oh, you're a homeless person. Let me get you a blanket, sleep on the couch, take a hot shower, right? I'll scramble you up some eggs. I've done that. A felony. It was a felon. I remember I was single, I was alone, and I met this guy, and he was just out of prison like a year. And he didn't have a car. He asked if he could use my phone to like call his girlfriend or something. And I was like, dude, are you hungry? He spent like 2 days sitting on my couch watching Netflix, because I was like, just come in here and rest. You know what I mean? It's peaceful in the apartment. Just come rest. I used him. I did. I was like, come over here and help me put my dining room table together. But the whole point to that story is, are you able to see suffering? And are you able to express the unconditional love that you've been taught? Because here comes a big fat challenge, a test. Let's see how far you've gotten. Now, I don't know what's going to come from this. You know, Saturn is one of those that gives us a test to see if we are responsible. Do we have discipline? You know, he wants to see that we have control in a good way of our world that is constantly transforming and constantly changing, even ourselves. So when these tests kind of come in from Saturn, I don't know. I know that our last Saturn right here square Jupiter over here, because Saturn will be like right here when it happens, like right there in that area. And the square is going to hit. But it's the third one, and it's the last one that we've been going through. We had one December 24th, 2024, August 19th, 2024. And if you have your phone or your emails and you can go back to those dates, August or December of 2024, look at the subject matter and look at the intensity of that subject matter to see how Saturn has been testing us before. Because when Saturn gets into Aries, I bet you $1 million that Saturn is either going to take something away from you because you have not passed the test, or Saturn's going to do the other thing. Saturn's going to look at you and be like, oh, dude, you did a really great job. I am ever so proud of you. Good job. Here's some more responsibility because I can trust you. It's like that. And we're getting the last one of those June 15th, 2025, which is only literally like 3 weeks away from us. Have I told you enough? Have I told you enough with this stuff? Because I do need to go. It has been a joy to be able to sit and translate the chart with you guys. If you are not part of my Patreon channel, that link is down below. The puppy is getting to the point where I think this Friday, we had the date all wrong. John and I were like all geared up, like, woohoo, tomorrow's Friday. Kai's going to training. Bye. He's a crazy dog right now. When he gets back from training, he'll be normal. You know what I mean? Like, I love you so much. We're paying to take you to training. Next Friday, he goes to training. And when he gets back, the household will run in the way it's supposed to. John is going to day shift, which means the world to me because now we'll be a normal household that actually gets up in the morning, goes to bed at night, and we can live better. I can live better. I can take care of my stuff. So if you're on the Patreon channel, expect more content. Also, I'd like for you to look at the YouTube channel, Woke.Ones.Revolution. It's Woke.Ones.Revolution. And that's where me and Heather are at. Her and I will also be doing a lot of content over there. We went live last weekend to do the tarot cards. We're probably going to go live again this weekend. I'm pretty happy about working with her. She's a fantastic one to work with. So I hope to see you on one of those other platforms. And you guys have a really solid, good week. Know that this was a test. It was only a test, right? It's only a test, and we will look at that Saturn square Jupiter with Heather because I think she has some good input there as well. I'll see you guys later. Bye.